How do you get better at coding if you're not exactly a beginner but not an expert either? Here are 10 tips to help you with that. Number 0, build more projects. Since you're not really a beginner anymore, you have more than surface level of knowledge about programming and hence you can now build basic projects by yourself. Gone are the days where you would build a simple tic-tac-toe or a guessing game and feel satisfied. Now, it's time to move on to something bigger. If you're into web development, start with something simple like a web app clone or path visualizers. Then you can get into all sorts of creative projects like building your own social networking site or a YouTube video summarizer. I could really use one. I cannot even count the number of times that I've watched a YouTube video and then completely forgotten what was the content and had to rewatch it. So definitely a YouTube transcript summarizer would be nice. Similarly, you can build different projects in different domains and see yourself soar. Number 1, add to previous projects. Think about the projects that you had made as a beginner. They're probably going to be less than 100 lines of code. Think about all the features that you could add to it which you had previously thought at the beginner stage were too complex for yourself to implement. If you'd made an Android app like Instagram, think about adding maybe a disliked feature or something completely new that does not exist on the platform, like uploading pictures to the comment section. If you had made an Amazon clone, try to integrate a couponing feature or a price history viewer which can help you save a lot of money. Get your thinking caps on and get started. Number 2, learn about libraries and frameworks. After making projects with just the core language, you can gradually start learning about their libraries and frameworks which are included and implement them to accomplish even more complicated tasks. I personally love finding more about JavaScript libraries and frameworks because I am super into web development right now. If you'd like me to make a video on the top JavaScript libraries and frameworks that you should be learning right now, drop a comment and I will surely make one. JavaScript has many of them. If you talk about the MERN stack, which has MongoDB, Express.js, React, Node.js, there are also other libraries like Angular and Vue.js, Next.js, and so on. Java has Springboot, Python has Flask, Django, TensorFlow, pytorch, NumPy, pandas, and the list just goes on. Every language has them and they're super fun to implement. Number 3, learn about APIs. What are APIs? They stand for Application Programming Interface. In very simple layman language, it can be used to communicate information between two different elements. Let's say you're building an e-commerce website and at the click of a button that says Add to Cart, the information should be stored in the back end and the database should be updated, which includes like the number of items should be increased by 1 and the details of the items should also be saved. All of this is taking place at the click of a button. All the information should go back and forth. This is what you'd use an API for. Another elementary example would be when you order food on a food delivery app. They're going to show you the live location of the delivery person, but you often see that the map is powered by Google Maps or some other third-party software. How is that food delivery app able to license some other third-party app's maps? That is through an API. Companies use it all the time. They're not going to hand over some other different company all their information and let them take control over it. All of this is established through very complex steps and APIs are used in them. Very interesting to learn about and you should surely check them out. Number 4, try to get an internship. You learn the best by doing, and when you're thrust into an environment where you have to practically apply all the skills that you have learned, you're going to practice the most important information and then skim over the less important. In an internship, you'll be having accountabilities as well as responsibilities. If you're working in a big organization, even as an intern, you learn a lot about how code is written in corporate that is to be reviewed by potentially hundreds of other developers. You'll be working on real-life projects that have some kind of utility in people's actual day-to-day lives. You will also learn that software engineers' all time is not spent writing code. It is also spent creatively thinking about design choices or logically trying to solve problems. You will also improve a lot in your presentation and interpersonal skills which are a very big facet of being a good communicator, which is essential for being a software engineer. Number 5, learn about data structures and algorithms. DSA is one of the most fundamental parts of a coding interview. To implement upon the last step, to get a job or an internship, you will have to at least crack a basic or couple of challenging coding interviews depending on where you apply. Knowing DSA is crucial for that. Data structures have a lot of implementation in normal day-to-day codes as well. Data structures in themselves are very useful and are implemented everywhere. You can start by learning about some of the simpler ones like strings and arrays, and then go on to learn about some of the more complicated ones like graphs, trees, linked lists, heaps, hash maps, and etc. You can then learn about the famous algorithms in sorting and searching, and then the ones in trees and graphs like breadth first search and depth first search, and then named algorithms like Prim's algorithm, Crusoe's algorithm, Moore's algorithm, etc. Number 6, practice questions on different platforms. Building on my previous tip, if you'd like to get an internship at an amazing product-based company, you'll be solving pretty tough questions. For this, after learning about data structures and algorithms, you should go on different platforms and try to practice questions based on them. You can go on to Lead Code, CodeChef, CodeForces, HackerRank, and try to solve as many problems as you can to build your logic. You can also venture into competitive coding, and if you enjoy it, play it like a sport. Number 7, learn about time and space complexity. What is time complexity? It is basically the amount of time the computer takes to complete a certain task. It is the growth of a function with time according to the number of steps and how much time it is going to take to complete execution depending on whatever inputs it is taking. I think I can explain it pretty well. It's basically how much time your machine is going to take to execute a very small task. Let's say, for example, you have a line of code that executes about 5 steps in, let's say, 2 seconds, and if it executes 10 steps in double the time, then it is going to be a linear time complexity, because since the number of steps double, the time is also doubled, so it is like a positive, it's a one-on-one correlation. There's a fair bit of math involved behind all of this, and it is pretty important to know when you're not thinking about simple projects anymore, when you're working at big corporate level or solving problems on online platforms. Number 8, learn about Git and GitHub. GitHub is a platform where you can upload all your code for other people to see. It is basically like Instagram for programmers minus all the pictures. To be able to use GitHub is a simple yet necessary skill. When you're working on larger code bases with multiple people, you have to upload all of it. That is how you communicate with each other and revert to previous versions if you find any bugs. This is essential to know when you'll be working in a tech company, contributing to open source, or coding your own startup. Takes less than an hour to get started with and makes work 10 times easier. Number 9, get out of tutorial hell. Don't get stuck in tutorial hell. It is very easy to get into an endless cycle of just watching tutorials after tutorials and not building anything by yourself. While that isn't wrong for a complete beginner, that is certainly not what an intermediate should be doing. It can very well have you crippled in your skills where you cannot build anything by yourself and always have to look to other people for guidance. This still happens to me. I watch an entire video, I watch an entire playlist to build an app clone. Then when I try to do things by myself, I am completely blank. I do not know where to start from. So sometimes do not refer to any source code. Think of an idea and just start coding and see how far you can get. Bonus tip, don't try to go for too many technologies or languages at once. I made this mistake very frequently when I was younger. Everything just seemed so interesting that I would constantly hop from one technology to another. One day I would be learning about artificial intelligence, the next day I would be trying to learn about web development, and the third would be on app development. That really kept me from getting better at specific things and actually solving real world problems, because at the end of the day, programming and coding all of these are just tools to solve problems. I couldn't make any significant progress doing this, and I had nothing to show for all the time that I had wasted. This isn't the mark of a person who is no longer a beginner, but an intermediate who can reason for themselves, who can build stuff on their own and explain to people why they have taken this approach and think about alternative steps. So here are all the tips that I have for you. Keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list of someone who is trying to get better at programming and someone who is an intermediate. There are a lot of other things that you can do besides the things that are mentioned in this video to get better and to level up to become an expert. My next video is going to be about expert tips to improve at programming. So please stay tuned for that. If you found this video to be helpful, press the like button. It helps me immensely with the YouTube algorithm and pushes it out to more people. Subscribe and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.